Hey YouTubers, it's Socket Man here. Just thought I'd give you a quick update. I'll probably string a bunch of small updates together. But I've got the gearbox loosened off. As you can see, it just slides off the back of the engine there. Very nice and simple, because the on this engine it was kind of I guess quasi unit construction. The gearbox isn't set separately on the frame. It is actually bolted onto the back of the engine, but it is driven separately from the primary driver crankshaft out to the primary drive. So anyway, so it has slid off quite easily just with 4 nuts, and I've popped off the transmission cover just to have a little peek-see in here. We've got a Kickstarter, which is in the shaft slides inside of the gear shift. The gear shift lever goes up into this assembly, and then down here we've got our neutral finder. So when you come to the stoplight or whatever, you just kick down on that. I am not too sure how that works as of yet, but by the time I get this disassembled, cleaned, and put back together, I will have that figured out. I'll try to describe it to you for later on. That's it for now. Cheers. Hey YouTubers, just another quick comment. I know that the Royal Enfield, they had the motto built like a gun, but I'm thinking it should be more like built like a tractor. This is the first bike, other than maybe in a swing arm, where there is a grease fitting on part of the engine and crankcase. So on the outside of the transmission, this is where the pivot is for the clutch disengagement. There's a good old grease fitting there that pumps inside and keeps that pivot point running lickety-split. So I'm thinking built like tractor is the new model for the Enfield. Cheers. And so the disassembly continues. We have most of the bits have been through the parts washer for the first time for the initial wash, so we can actually start seeing what the parts look like. Gearbox is ready for tear down into itty bitty bits for inspection. I still have to check too if there's going to be any mods that need to be done to the Albion box. This is our rock guard that this thing weighs about 2 or 3 pounds just on its own. It's no wonder this bike weighs so much. And if we go over here, we got some of the other parts have been just kind of wiped down, ready for inspection this weekend. We'll be going over everything with fine-tooth comb, starting to make up the parts list to order. Frame still needs to have a little wipe down. Got 2 fork tubes here are draining. I've been through the parts washer, draining out. They'll be ready to pull apart, ready to figure out what seals. And the engine's coming along. I just packing up for tonight, but I've got the camshafts are out, and most of the bolts are out. I still got 2 bolts here and here to come off, and then these 2 at the bottom, and the crankcase is pretty much ready to be split. Anyone that's tearing these apart, don't forget the 2 bolts that are in here inside the actual just where the pistons are, basically. When I went to put the screwdriver in there, those 2 bolts were less than finger tight. They were basically rattle loose, so that's a little worrisome that they could have backed out of there, and that would have made a big mess of the piston if they did. So I'll have to do a little research on that and make sure that I'm guessing some high temp thread lock should be employed in there in nice clean thread. So I'll do a little research, because I don't want that to happen. That's kind of scary actually, how loose those were. Anyway, so just about ready to crack the engine in half. We'll just pull everything out, do an inspection. I don't think anything's going to have to be replaced in there. We'll basically just be resealing everything unless there's something weird comes up, and I think that's about it for now. So I'll give you another update when we got things torn down the inside of the Albion gearbox and the inside of the engine. Basically that's the last couple of steps to get ripped down into bits. So cheers. Here we are. We have the Royal Enfield Series 2 engine cracked in half. It was a little bit of a challenge just to get it started. There's two locating dowels that looked like they were maybe just dried up. There's a lot of sealant around it, but I did actually have to, not having done this every day or do this for a living where I'm cracking these apart 10 or 12 a year, was a little hesitant to tap too hard on the end of the crankshaft, and there weren't any other good places to get good purchase. So I ended up having to do the old brutal screwdriver in between the two halves. I did it down at the bottom of the sump and just kind of worked my way around. Got some popsicle sticks in there, which helped out. Anyway, it's apart now. Everything's okay. There's the con rods. I didn't realize that they, for the big end caps, the bearing caps there, they've actually got the cap head screws wired in, which is fantastic. Very ingenious. I did inspect when I was kind of cleaning the engine. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't putting too much or letting too much Varsol get into the engine cavity, because I did want to see what was down there. So I've got a few things that are a little concerning. There's a few pieces here. Oh, grab a screwdriver. These little black pieces here seem to be some kind of manufactured material, organic material, somewhat brittle that you could snap. That was in the bottom. That might be just some leftover hardened up sealant. But there are a few metal pieces, steel pieces here I should say, not aluminum. And this one good sized. It looks like hardened steel corner out of something. So that's mildly concerning. It's big enough that I should be able to go on an Easter egg hunt to figure out where that little piece came off of. So a little bit of sleuthing to be done to figure out where that came from. Make sure that it's nothing going to cause problems, and if it is, I will have to make the repair. So anyway, so step one done. Now I've got to try and get the crankshaft at the other side, or I'm going to need to clean all the oil passages and all that while I've got it apart. So I'm pretty sure the crankshaft's going to have to come out of the half, and I can clean everything all up from here. So anyway, there's the next update. Take care. Cheers.